This is Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WyoRadio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines. Presented Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. And now, Dateline Wyoming. As families face the ordeal of losing a loved one to death, Sweetwater Hospice provides the services to help make facing that loss a little easier, providing assistance for those who struggle to make the issue of dealing with the death of a family member more bearable. This is Tom Ellis, your host for Dateline Wyoming. Today we learn more about Sweetwater Hospice and the services provided by that organization. Our guests this week are Lori Carlson, Director of Patient Family Services, and Patty O'Hexley, Case Manager for Sweetwater Hospice. Our program begins following this message from our sponsors, Northern Title. Good deeds done daily.
Remember when your word and a handshake sealed the deal?
Those were the days.
It's just not the same anymore. But Northern Title Company exemplifies professionalism and old-school customer service. You have a choice when it comes to title work. Northern Title makes it simple for you. They know how important it is to have everything in order. Walk away with confidence knowing Marianne and her staff have completed your title work thoroughly. Visit Northern Title Company, 2620 Commercial Way. Good deeds done daily.
Let's start off with maybe just a little bit of the history of hospice, where it originated, how it came about, and maybe the history of how it came to Sweetwater County.
The original hospice was actually started by Dame Cicely Saunders, and she started off as hospice was a hospitality house for travelers coming through, and then it kind of changed into being a place for people that were sick. And she brought the idea to the United States in 1963. And by 1982, Medicare had done a hospice benefit to where places could start getting paid for the services they provided. And then our hospice started in 1983.
Hospice in Sweetwater County has been here since 1983 then. That's
Yes.
quite a while. If you will, explain the services that hospice offers.
We have hospice services. Most of the services are provided in the home for all of our patients that are terminally ill, and we provide nursing visits, on-call availability. You have a nurse on call available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We provide an aide if they need help with bathing, personal cares, those types of things. We also contract with VIRS Respite Care. They can have their aides come in and stay with the patient so the family members can leave the home, go to appointments, go do grocery shopping, anything like that that they need to do.
Respite care refers more to giving the caregivers a break in their routine, does it not?
Absolutely. With hospice, a lot of times the family and caregivers are the ones that are there 24 hours a day with the patient. Our organization is so small that we can't be there 24 hours a day with them, so we rely on the families to provide the main amount of care. Then we're available to help educate them and support them through their process. So respite can come in and give those family members a break so that they can go out in the community and do things. And caregiving is a very difficult job, so it gives them a chance to get out and do something else. We provide medications related to the terminal illness, also for symptom management, so pain, those types of things, anything to keep the patient comfortable. We provide those medications, which helps take some of the financial burden off of the family. Also, medical equipment. So if they need wheelchairs, walkers, a hospital bed, oxygen concentrator, we provide all of those out of our daily fees that we get from Medicare, as well as supplies such as briefs, underpads, bathing supplies, anything like that that would make it easier for the families to be able to keep their loved ones at home. And those are all the services we provide in the home, and then we also provide emotional support for the family and grief and bereavement support after the patient has passed. So we continue to follow the families.
Typically, how are people referred to you?
We get referrals from family members. We have patients that refer themselves, from doctors, the hospital, hospitals down in Utah, any of those types of things. We can take a referral from anyone, and then we just have to follow up with medical records to make sure that their terminal illness meets our requirements.
What geographic area do you usually cover?
We are all of Sweetwater County.
Okay, so just within the confines of Sweetwater County.
Yes.
It sounds like you partner with a lot of different entities within Sweetwater County.
We do. We are connected to a lot of different things. We know of a lot of different resources. A lot of our patients and families have needs for resources, so we're able to put them in contact with who can help them.
How large a staff do you have?
We have about 13 people that are full-time. Most of those are nurses that are with us.
And their training is in nursing, or do they have specialized training for hospice?
There have to be an RN, and then we train for the hospice side of it, so they're on the job training for hospice specifically, but they need to be a registered nurse.
And that is, for want of a better word, on the job training as far as the hospice training goes?
Yes.
You provide that within your organization?
Yes,
then.
we do.
Is there a charge for what you do?
We don't charge the families. Our main billing goes through Medicare or insurance, Medicaid, whatever kind of insurance source that they have. We bill them and they pay us a daily rate, and all of our services come out of that daily rate, and we don't charge the family anything above and beyond what insurance pays us. And we also rely on donations, memorials, and a grant from Sweetwater County.
Okay, so you've actually got some donated funding, you've got government funding, you've got some state funding, I would guess, maybe in there?
Just the county.
Just the county funding to keep the whole thing going?
Yep, and the county gives us up our place to stay, our office space, as well as our IT support and things like that. So they're very helpful in our daily needs and what we're doing.
Talk, if you would, for just a few minutes about the bereavement program.
Colby does the grief and bereavement support for our patients of hospice, or families of hospice patients, support group and one-on-one services. And those services are available to the entire community. So it doesn't just have to be a hospice patient. It could be anybody that has suffered a loss. She's available with the support group and the one-on-one as well. And she has also implemented a program for bereaved children at Eastside and Pilot Butte for the 5th and 6th graders. It's called Happy at Heart, and it's for any kids that have suffered a loss and any kids that would want to companion those children. So they teach them compassion and empathy and those types of things. And this year, the Health Academy, some of the Health Academy kids are helping out with that, so they're available to those children as well. And at Pilot Butte, the contact would be Kim Drain, and at Eastside, the contact would be Teresa Klotka. They're starting that on October 5th, and the applications are available for anybody that might be interested in having their child attend that after-school activity.
Childhood death is always difficult to deal with, isn't it?
And people always think that the kids might not understand, or they're scared to tell them and things like that. And we've found that most of the time kids deal with it a lot better than adults do, as long as you're honest with them and give them age-appropriate answers. Death is a scary thing, and so if you're hiding it from them or not telling them the truth, and they come up with all these imaginary things that are way far from the truth. So if you can just be honest with them, then it helps them deal with it a lot better.
Okay, and that's the bereavement program with hospice.
Yep.
Walk us through, if you would, the process in how somebody would get a hold of you and what the process would be.
They can contact us at our office. Our phone number is 362-1990, and anybody can call to get information about any of the services we provide or to refer a patient. As soon as our patient is referred, we send their medical records over to our medical director, Dr. John Aaliyah. He's board certified in hospice and palliative care, and he makes the decision if they're meet our requirements that Medicare gives us for a terminally ill patient, and then we go from there to get them admitted, speak to the family, see what they need, all that kind of stuff.
And it depends on the specific situation as to how much you may have to provide in terms of service and equipment and so forth?
Absolutely. Every patient is different. We have patients right now that are able to stay home by themselves. and can still meet all their ADLs, do their basic needs, all of that kind of stuff. So we see them at least once a week just to keep up with them until they start to have changes. Then there's other patients that we see on a daily or sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. So it just depends on the needs of the family and the patient at that time.
Can you give us an idea of the general guidelines as to how somebody qualifies, or what what the qualification is for hospice?
By Medicare guidelines, they have to have a terminal illness that if it runs its natural course would last 6 months or less.
How many people are you serving right now?
Right now we have a census of 14, and typically our census, obviously it changes rather rapidly. Typically anywhere between 6 to 17 patients on any given day.
In covering Sweetwater County, you may do a little bit of traveling as well.
Absolutely. We have patients, we've been in Farson, Wansutter, Granger, obviously Rock Springs, Green River are the majority of it, and we can also serve Bear Oil.
Okay, and I believe you do have a website, do you not?
We do. We have a website. It has videos, resources. You can do online donations, and it's www.myhsc.org.
And that's got contact information and so forth.
Yep, it has all our contact information and just lots of good resources for people.
If there was something you would like people to know about hospice, what would that be?
Earlier referrals work out a lot better for everybody in the long run. We're not meant to be the last 3 days or 3 hours of life. We're truly meant to be the last 6 months. So the longer we're in there, the more prepared the family is, and they have a better time with grief and bereavement afterwards, and there's not as many cases of complicated grief.
You're actually offering a complete package in that whole situation, are you not?
Absolutely. We keep following up with them, the families after the passing of a loved one for up to 18 months. So they get Journeys, which is our newsletter. They have access to grief support. They can do one-on-one support with Colby. It's not just the patient care. We care for the whole family unit. So we do follow them afterwards as well.
Who are the people who make Sweetwater Hospice the asset to our community that it is?
Our executive director is Pam Jellica. She's been with us for quite some time, at least since 1991. Our office manager, Sandy Mosby, she does all of our billing, answering telephones, all the behind the scenes, and she is amazing. We need her very much on a daily basis. Myself, I'm Lori Carlson, Director of Patient Family Services, and then we have 4 full-time case managers. We have Patty Olexi, Krista Miller, Summer Van Cam, and Susan Arguello, a on-call nurse, Brenda Partain, and our support services coordinator, Colby Williams, and she does all the grief and bereavement support. She runs our support groups, and she just helps people with all the head and the heart stuff, all the emotional stuff that comes along with a terminally ill patient. We have a hospice aide, Jamie Grant, who can go in and help with the personal care. She helps a lot with doing bathing, anything like that that helps the patients be able to stay at home if their loved ones aren't able to do that for them.
What is your history with hospice, and how did you get involved?
I started out when I was in nursing school at Western. I did my clinicals, my choice clinical up at hospice with Teddy Van Cam. At that point, she was the director of patient family services. So I spent a few days with them and just loved what they did. So when I graduated, I became a volunteer, and I volunteered with them for about 6 months before there was an opening. And I started on as a full-time case manager. And then last year in June of 2015, when Teddy left, they had me step up as Director of Patient Family Services.
Okay, Patty?
I actually just started with hospice in July of this year. I came to the hospice from leaving the hospital, and I was working with the cardiac and pulmonary rehab program up there and realized there was this big need for hospice to deal with these patients. Plus, hospice is just an amazing place to work. People ask us, how can you work there and how can you do that every day? And my answer to them is, how can we not? These people in their life need as much as attention as the birth, and we just want to help them focus through that journey. To me, it's just something that we are called to do and very blessed to do. So it's just part of a journey that we want to be part of.
Can you go into a little more detail on what the grief support entails?
We have a support group that is the first and third Thursdays of every month, and you can call Colby Williams at our office number to get more information on that. And she also does one-on-one grief support for some people that aren't comfortable in a group environment, so that she can, and it's just support, it's one-on-one support, just to help people realize that there's no set limit for grief, and that any way that they evolve through grief is normal. Some people think that there are certain steps through grief and certain processes, and once you get through one, you're on to the next, but you bounce back and forth all over the place. So she helps just to work through those emotions. There is no normal grief. Normal grief is wherever you're at on that day, and it can change by day to day and hour to hour. So there really is no normal. But our society puts a lot of pressure on people just because they're not comfortable with grief. So, a lot of people say it's time to get over it and that type of stuff, which doesn't help that grieving person at all. Everybody grieves differently because their circumstances that they lost someone are always different. There's never any two that are exactly alike.
Dateline continues after a message from our sponsor.
When you buy or sell a house or property, you have a choice in real estate agents. When you're ready to close on that real estate transaction, you also have a choice in your closing company. Northern Title has been servicing Sweetwater County for many years. Their experience can make your closing time quick and hassle-free. So tell your real estate agent your choice at closing time is Northern Title, 2620 Commercial Way, Rock Springs. Good deeds done daily. Northern Title.
And now we continue with Dateline Wyoming. I understand that you have developed some special programs.
Patty has come up with a couple new programs for us called HSC Rhythms.
We developed a couple programs to focus on two of the areas that we see in our local hospitals and across the nation that patients are being readmitted to the hospital over and over for. One of them is pulmonary, which is COPD, and the other one is heart disease, basically congestive heart failure. So what we're doing, it's basically hospice, but it's getting these patients that are probably within the last 6 months of their life, instead of going back and forth to the emergency room being readmitted over and over, we're getting them admitted to hospice to get that hospice care so they can get a bit more quality life at the end of their life, instead of spending the last 6 months of their life in hospitals or doctor offices or just not feeling comfortable. So if we could admit them and get them into our hospice program, we will take care of their medications and their labs and their doctor appointments. We do all that for them so they can focus on a more quality of life. So instead of quantity of how much longer they're going to live, we focus more on quality.
This is an effort to get them back into their own home, is it not?
If you take a survey, I think it's 7 out of 10 people would rather die at home. With hospice, we're hoping to get those numbers back up there, but it actually gives them the support that they need and the education. So the family members, we don't go in and take over the care. We support the family in taking care of them and provide them with everything they need to take care of their family members. So we support them, but we do not interfere with their care.
So do you become an advocate for the family and for the person?
Absolutely.
Talking about the demand in our community, are there things we could be doing to meet the needs that we're not, or are we doing a lot of that already?
We're doing a lot of it already, but I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of misconceptions about hospice and what we do and don't do. So just education for the community so that they understand what's available and that we're not just in there to give the patient certain medications until they are gone, but that we really are a full package deal. We also offer spiritual support and have chaplains and volunteers available to help with those types of things. The biggest thing, if we could stress anything, would be that earlier referrals help patients have a better quality of life instead of just having us in there doing crisis management for the last few days. We can really get patients so that they can get out and do the things they want to do, spend time with their loved ones. We have a few patients that, all they wanted to do was go fishing, so we got them to get out and go fishing. There's some that love to go and gamble. They get up to go to Riverton and go gamble. Whatever they say is quality, that's what we focus on and try to get them to be able to do. We try our best to be able to go in there and help the families along their journey so that we can take some of that stress off, even if we're just bringing medications in, so that the family's not running to the pharmacy to get prescriptions, so that they can spend more quality time together. That's really what we're all about. And there's never a patient or family that doesn't teach us more than we teach them. We really are the blessed ones to be able to go in during such an intimate time and help these families through this process.
If someone is looking to volunteer to help out to become a part of hospice,
We are always in need of volunteers. If they are interested in doing that, they can, again, contact Colby Williams. She is in charge of all of our volunteers. We have some awesome volunteers right now, but we're always looking for more, and it can be either doing some patient care, going in and sitting with the patients, reading stories to them, just talking to them. A lot of our patients are somewhat lonely, so just having that extra person there to talk to makes a big difference. And there's also, if they don't want to do patient care, we have stuff in the office that they can do as well.
how many volunteers do you have right now?
Right now we have 5 volunteers.
What else would you like to tell us about Sweetwater Hospice?
Yeah, we can get in there and do a lot more managing if we're in there a little bit earlier. We get to know the patient, we get to know the family, so then if the patient has something going on, it's a lot easier to recognize that something's going on, and we can try to fix it or manage that symptom a little bit quicker than we could if we hadn't been in there.
One of the things that seems to be going on in our society, and we've talked about this with other subjects, but the breakdown of the family unit is something that leaves a lot of people in great need of what you're doing. Would you talk about that for just a little bit, maybe?
Right. In our society, the things have kind of changed where, people are going to nursing homes. People have 2 jobs. They're not able to take care of their loved ones, that kind of stuff. So it is made for kind of a difficult situation. But if we can get in there and just help them and manage their resources, a lot of times they're amazed on that they really can keep them at home and do that. That being said, if they do need to go to a nursing home, we do have contracts with both Sageview and Mission at Castle Rock, so we can provide hospice services in the nursing home in addition to the care that they get there.
The one thing I do want to mention too that you were talking about is we do not deny anybody for hospice. So if they do not have insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, we will take them.
You have some special events coming in the next month or two.
On October 26th, we're going to be doing a screening of Being Mortal, and it's a book by Atul Gawande that goes over how our society has changed and we no longer take care of our elderly and things like that. So there will be a screening of the documentary and then a discussion following. There will be 2 show times, one from 11 to 1 and one from 6 to 8 up at Western Wyoming Community College in room 1302. And then coming up in November, we have our candlelight ceremony. The exact date and location, it hasn't been determined yet, but that's when we have kind of a ceremony that anybody that has had hospice services in the previous year will be up on a PowerPoint so that they have recognition of being a hospice patient. And it's a good time for people to come together. Holidays are always a hard time with grief, so people can come together and support each other through that process. And also starting in November, we have our Tree of Love, which we have handmade ceramic roses that we have available for purchase by donation of $10. And every year they're a different color, so those are just set to in memory of different patients that have passed throughout the years. We've served almost 1,300 patients and families since we started in 1983. And in some way, it seems like most families that we come in contact with now have had some sort of contact with hospice in the past.
Today's program concludes after this message from Northern Title. We will be back in just a moment to learn about plans to provide an inpatient facility for Sweetwater Hospice.
Northern Title Company knows that most of us don't like paying capital gains tax every time we buy or sell property. We want to keep what we've worked so hard to acquire, but we may not know how or where to find the answers we need. That's why using Northern Title, an experienced and qualified title company, is the answer. Stop in today at 2620 Commercial Way in Rock Springs. Northern Title Company. Good deeds done daily.
I understand that you are in the midst of a fundraising project to have a facility available here in Sweetwater County.
We're hoping to be able to get a facility, an inpatient facility for hospice patients, but we won't be able to go on the ballot or do anything with that until 2018. So we're kind of on hold for that for the minute.
Talk a little bit, if you would, about the facility that you're looking to develop and that you're doing fundraising for.
We're hoping to be able to get a facility so that if patients don't have caregivers, they will have a place to go, to stay, to have spend rest of their days. And the county has given us $2 million if we use the facility, the old hospital. Once they move out of there, if we remodel that into our facility, they've already started earmarking some money for that.
So you're raising funds to meet the expenses of making the hospital work for you.
Right now, it's coded for business office space, and it doesn't meet earthquake requirements anymore. So to do patient rooms, we would have to add on a wing.
Talk a little bit, if you will, about some of the fundraising you're doing, some of the events you have planned.
The main event that we do each year is Power the Purse. It's in April. It's our biggest fundraiser by far. It's sponsored by Deer Trail Assisted Living. This year will be the 4th year. It keeps getting bigger, and it's a whole lot of fun.
Quite an event.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we have different things every year, but we really rely on the community for those donations and things like that so that we can continue to serve people even if they don't have insurance.
The contact information one more time.
Our telephone number is 362-1990, and that will get you in touch with anybody in the office. We're a very small nonprofit organization, so pretty much everybody in the office knows what's going on at any given moment. So you can call us there. You can also come visit us. We're in the newly remodeled building at 333 Broadway, Suite 220, so it's the Old Rock Springs National Bake. The county has been nice enough to let us stay there, and we're up on the top floor. So you can come by and see us at any time, and we can answer questions or anything like that.
Our guests today have been Lori Carlson and Patty Alexi from Sweetwater County Hospice. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us.
You have been listening to Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WyoRadio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines, presented weekly at this time. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made for responsible dissenting opinion. Join us next Sunday at 7 a.m. for Dateline Wyoming.